Grab you some coffee or some water and let's sit down and chat for a few minutes. Hey everyone, today's video is a collaboration with Tanisha Kemp of Marriage, Motherhood, and Homeschooling. This is a video I've actually wanted to do for a long time, but there's some videos like I want to do them, but I don't usually have the time to schedule to sit down and do them. But with doing it as a collab, I was like, well, I really need to sit down and do this video. So that's what we're doing today, is we're just sitting down, listening to my outdoor decor being blown around in the wind. It's cold and chilly and rainy today, and I could go take it down. I don't know, if it gets too crazy, I'll take it down. But I'm probably not going to do a lot of editing. I'm just going to talk to you all today. I mean, I have my coffee right here if I need it. I also, because, you know, I have to have water too, I have my water here as well, and we're just going to talk today. I am going to edit out some things though, because like I'm a little sniffly with the constant changes in the weather and ragweeds and blooms. So I am going to have some prompting right here with my phone of just questions and ideas that she gave for things to talk about in this video. The whole gist of this is basically just homeschool advice. And I finally feel like I've actually been homeschooling long enough to feel like I could actually give advice. And that's another thing we could probably talk about. It's just like, for a long time, I felt like, even though like I would give advice on this channel, and that's one of the reasons we started this channel, was nobody was homeschooling like we were when we started our channel. And I was at a point where we actually started this channel 6 weeks after my brother died, and I just needed a place I was looking for information for help for homeschooling 3 kids at once, and well, 4 at the time because we had a foster at the time. And I was looking for help, and I couldn't find anybody who was homeschooling like we were. So I started this channel, and I was like, you know, just sharing how we did things. But at the same time, I also still felt like if I focused on just homeschooling for a channel, I was not really qualified enough. I felt like I didn't really have enough information to give. But now that I've been in it for 10 years now, I can look back and be like, even if you're just 1 year in, there's stuff that you may be doing that nobody else is doing that you could be helping with. So I believe now that like everybody could give advice, and I feel like I've grown since that point. But I had to grow to get to this point. So glad I brought coffee over here. And I'm gonna mute that. So Tanisha said the one thing she wants us to talk about is advice that did and did not work for us. So let's get started with that. So Matt and I from the get-go had already planned on homeschooling. Matt's actually a homeschool graduate. I wanted to be homeschooled. I did not want to be in public school, but circumstances didn't really allow it that way, so I actually graduated from public school. So I'm a public school graduate, but Matt is a homeschool graduate. But we both, like I said in our story video, we both had a passion from the get-go to just homeschool our kids and to be able to teach them we wanted them to learn from more like hands-on real-world experiences. And that's just kind of where we were at the time with, you know, where we were with our kids. That's kind of still where we are now, is that we still want them to learn from real life. Because if we didn't want to do that, we so would not be doing near as much as we are doing. But yeah, we've basically, from the beginning, that was what we wanted to do. And honestly, from the beginning, it was, when we talked to people about homeschooling, it was not as much like helpful tips on how to homeschool. It was just, yes, you should homeschool. Okay, so how do you do it? Yes, you homeschool. I'm like, are you serious? This is how you homeschool, is you just tell people, yes, you homeschool. So I was just, I was going crazy. I was just at the point, I was like, okay, Lord, what do we do? And I went to a used bookstore and I started checking stuff out. And even before that, no, actually it was before that. So right when we started homeschooling, our former church had a field trip that they took to a schoolhouse, like a one-room schoolhouse in the Smokies near us. We're actually thinking of doing that one for a trip. I may do that soon-ish with the color change of leaves and all that. It's a very busy it's a very busy area though, so but we're gonna try to get to it. I think it's called the Greenbrier Schoolhouse. It's over near the Sugarlands area. But they actually had a reenactor, I guess, who was teaching school lessons that day, and she was explaining how they did it, and all the kids are like, oh, this is so funny, haha. And I was like, no, I'm really interested in this. How did they do it back then? Because I'm looking at, you know, at the time when that happened, I had 3. I had just my 3 now. We didn't have our foster son yet. And I was like, how on earth did they do this? And she started talking, and she's like, well, they used a Blueback Speller book. So I was like, okay, what is this Blueback Speller? So then I got to my used bookstore, and they have it. And in Abeka sells the Blueback the Blueback Speller, or the Blueback Handbook. And Abeka calls it the Handbook for Reading. But if you look back on older editions of the Abeka ones, they're called the Blueback Speller. It's a book that's been around for hundreds of years to teach, maybe not hundreds, but like 200-ish years, like they used it in the 1800s, to teach kids how to sound out their phonics and how to read. So that was the first book that I purchased. I was like, yes, I want this. Then as I'm looking, shelf above it, homeschool help books. I was like, okay. And there was one that just grabbed my attention. It was literally just called How to Homeschool. And it was written by Gail Graham. I don't know if it's any relation to like Billy Graham, but like it said Gail Graham. And I was like, okay. So I brought it home, got the kids to bed that night, and started reading through it. And I'm like, this is what I want. Because she very much does a lot of the unit studies. Like all the science, all the history, they 100% taught from unit studies. They never did like 5th grade science, 7th grade science, 9th grade science like we're doing now. And they went solely on unit studies. And I was like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. And I started trying to implement that. Then I had my first bad homeschooling advice. You'll hear a lot of I just realized you're probably going to hear a lot of formers on this. And if you haven't watched our channel for a while, we've gone through a lot of changes. We have a new church now. We have a new homeschool umbrella school. And we have a new homeschool curriculum. So that'll all kind of get implemented in this. But I also don't want... I've also tried not to do a ton of it on there because I don't want it to be like bashing or anything like that. So first bad advice that I received was from our old umbrella school. And a lot of people were like, oh, it's the only umbrella school you can use, blah, blah, blah. They do this, and this, and it's the only one that'll let you teach the way you want to. I was like, okay, cool. I can teach any way I want to. Yeah, it's great. And then come to find out, no, you can't. You couldn't do unit studies because they were like, oh, no, you can't do unit studies unless you actually buy a specific unit study curriculum. And I'm like, she's in 1st grade. Why do I need to buy this $50 packet for just studying oceans just so I can report it? And that was the first bad advice that I received was, don't do unit studies. You have to have something that you can report to your umbrella school. By the way, my new umbrella school was like, no, you should have been able to do that from the get-go. There is no problem with doing that as long as you did like filing showing exactly what you did for it. It would not have been a problem. So that was the first bad advice I had was don't do unit studies. Because that was actually where I wanted to go, was I wanted to lean more towards doing like unit studies where everybody was doing the same thing at the same time. And then it also like, it was more for me like family bonding time. So that was one thing. Now, what we do now, 10 years later, honestly, I feel like this year has been our best year ever. Like, I know that sounds crazy. I've got a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary schooler this year. I personally feel like this year has been my favorite year of homeschooling ever. I loved our first year because it was like the first experience with just me and my oldest and doing that. And I love teaching each of the kids to read, but I think this has been my favorite year so far. Because now, like, we're not doing unit studies, but when we travel, we have packets that we're doing. And I have found that with their Monarch curriculum, I can either give them extra credit, like there's a section where you can put in special projects, and give them extra credit for the things they're learning while we're traveling. Also, like Rebecca in 5th grade right now is doing a unit on drawing seeds. So literally while we've been doing hiking, she just either we take a picture of it or she draws it right there, and we've been learning about seeds. So it's like, and I'm still technically doing unit studies in my opinion, because we're learning as we go and doing the classes together while we're traveling as a family. So definitely my first advice on that would be go with your gut. If you feel like you want to go with unit studies and your umbrella school that you're currently with is saying no, see if there's another umbrella school option, or see if you can still find a way to do it your way and just maybe just implement it in as you go. So from there, it was like, okay, we have to do this. And then everybody was like, some people use Abeka and it's great and they love it. And I loved Abeka for phonics and basic math teaching. Once we got to the higher grades though, we kept running into issue after issue after issue with them. Then they started splitting the books to where there was like tons of books, and I won't go back through all of that. If you want to see our video on why we switched from Abeka to Monarch, there's 2 videos on it. I'll link them up here and down there. But everybody was like, your kids won't learn if you do digital schooling. Your kids won't learn unless you do this, and you have to give them Abeka, and they have to have work, and they need to be above and beyond. I mean, like, one of the worst advice I had was like, make sure your kids are above and beyond in public school. And I'm like, I just feel like if you keep saying that over and over again, you were setting homeschool kids up to thinking they're better than public school kids, and they're not. Just because one person is able to homeschool their kids doesn't mean that somebody who can't homeschool their kids is any less of a person because they can't do it for where they are in their life. I mean, I know a mom who her husband was gone like that, and then she now was supposed to be homeschooling her 6-year-old while caring for a 4-year-old and a newborn that was born shortly after her husband died. And it's like, she couldn't do it. She had to support her kids and she had to take care of her kids. So she ended up putting one of them in a Christian school, and I was like, I was supporting her because I'm like, you need to do what you need to do to take care of you. And then there's some families I've talked to them and been like, I totally get it. There's some people who don't need to be homeschooling, and there's some people like you can't. So, like, I never wanted that mindset, but also it kind of felt like with some homeschooling crowds, it was almost like, yeah, you were better than, I'm like, don't do that. Don't tell people you're better because you can teach at home and the other people can't. So that was another thing, was just like, I was tired of hearing like, oh, homeschool kids need to be better, blah, blah, blah. And I do think, you know, they have more one-on-one than public school kids do. But my kids aren't any better than public school kids are. They're still kids. Everybody still makes mistakes. Everybody still needs help with something. Not everybody can ace 100% of every single subject first try. It's so, like, I never wanted that mindset. But anyways, back to Abeka. Like I said, watch those 2 videos because I'm already 13 minutes in. I don't want to take it too long. But we ended up finding out that Abeka wasn't working for us. And trying to do like a sit-down bookwork curriculum that had so much extensive vocabulary that had to be done every single day wasn't working for us. Using an online curriculum that we could do literally anywhere that we go was working better for us. And I've had a couple of questions and people ask, like, do you literally do 100%? Not really, honestly. Technically, Monarch is filled out online, but like the other day, we printed out a, so the way that Monarch does book reports is they give you questions to answer, kind of question prompts to get you thinking to do the book reports. And I love that format. It's worked so good for our kids. I love it. I mean, that's what I did in public school, was they had like, you know, this is what you need to have in the book report. And then they would take you through it. Before you did a book report, you would do an example one. So I love the way that Monarch does that, where it's questions. So with us traveling 2 days a week, sometimes 3 days a week, they don't always have a Chromebook in front of them to do it. We started printing off that questionnaire of what they need to fill out for each specific book report, because like the one for fictional history books versus a biography are different questions. So we just print them off different ones for each one. And like if I wanted to, I could print front and back for different ones and put them in page protectors. But now we can print those off and they can do those on the go. Or I can print extra math worksheets for them to practice on in between doing the lessons and the quizzes if they need it. They don't do it for every subject. So like we're not printing every single subject. Because I know some people that do that. Some people do that with Monarch. They print every single thing. We don't. We just print like the extras. or like grabbing a notepad and drawing the seeds and then coming home and just reporting what you did for that. Honestly, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and honestly up until I had like one person who was actually positive and helped me with homeschool before the past 2 years, like one. And that person would help when they could, but they were also homeschooling their own kids and they had their own life things to take care of. But honestly, most of it we had to just learn on our own because we just felt alone. And now, especially over the past year, with having the new umbrella school who's supporting us, and having a new church family who is extremely loving and supporting of us, even though like a lot of our new church is extremely active in the public school community, but they still love homeschoolers, and they still will, you know, invite you in and make you feel like you're family and like you're one of them. Not that like I'm saying like you have to be one of them, you know what I mean? Like you go some places and like you don't feel like you ever fit in and belong, which is where we were before. But now with our new church family, it literally feels like family. It's like we belong, we're there, and we're just as much part of them as somebody who's been there their entire life. Now it's like we do have more support, and it's actually kind of weird to have that much more support now. But that's kind of, again, like why we do what we do, is like we want people to feel like you're just as much a part of our community. And like the other day, I won't say who, I had a mom from my channel email me. She didn't comment, she emailed me begging for advice. I asked her if I could pray for her over it and that, and I'm not even going to discuss it because it was a private email. And she was begging for advice because she had nobody. And I was like, that's why I'm here. Don't feel bad. That's why I'm here. Because I, for a long time, didn't feel like I had that. So another thing too is like, if you just feel completely alone, find somebody to help support you, because this is not easy. I mean, it's not, like, I'm loving this year and it's great, but it's not easy. There's the days where you have to sit down and you have to take the time to teach the hard subjects, or take the extra time to go buy the flowers for the science experiments. Or, I mean, for us, we love traveling, so the traveling part's not as bad for us. There's some days, like, if we go to travel and, like, today it's super rainy, and it ended up throwing off our week a couple weeks ago of going and it being super rainy. So, like, I mean, still, things happen, you know, how things in your house break, laundry gets piled up, the dishwasher needs cleaned out, and life happens. It's not super easy, and sometimes you need that support group. So definitely reach out, find a support group, find somebody to help support you. If what you're doing is not working, ask for help and see if maybe doing something new will help, or maybe see if you just need encouragement to do what you're currently doing slightly different. For a while, like I said, I still liked Becca for like K through 3rd grade, which is actually the grades that Monarch doesn't cover. For a long time, like I couldn't get like one thing, and that one person I told you I could talk to, I went to her and like she hands me a cassette, and I was like, are you serious? And that cassette helped so much, and it was crazy how that one cassette helped with our kids. I'll actually link that video. It is so super cute. The first time one of our kids saw a cassette tape, it was hilarious. I'll link up here. It's super cute. It's on the YouTube Kids now because it features a child, so you can't comment on it, but it's so super cute. But having that one cassette though helped get us through that one point, and then like instead of having to just be like, oh, this isn't working, throw the whole curriculum away, I just changed one thing and it helped greatly. So if you have something that's not working, try something new and see if it helps. My advice is to just reach out for help, keep going, and just, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I pray about it. I pray a lot, because then literally some days it's just like, Lord, help me, because I'm just not going to get through this day, and that's okay. Just reach out, find the help you need, try something new, try reading a different book. I don't know if they even still make the How to Homeschool book. I bought it like 14 years ago, 10 years ago. That's when I started homeschooling, 10 years ago. So I bought it 10 years ago at a used bookstore. And The only other one, like I said, that I recommended was the Abeka handbook for reading. Is super helpful with vocabulary and stuff. We also have a partnership with Night Zookeeper. This is not a sponsor. I don't do sponsor videos for collabs, but it's always in our link. So we do have a partnership with Night Zookeeper that has been so beneficial in helping our kids with creative writing and extra help with adjectives, adverbs, nouns, pronouns. It's a one-on-one tutorage program. I absolutely love it. It is so great. So thank you, Tanisha, for doing this collab. Sorry my video went super long, but like I said, it was kind of a video. I just wanted to sit down and talk for a while and just be like, this is kind of how we were, things that people told us, and I'm so glad the biggest changes that we made. We've been so happy with the new umbrella school. We've been so happy with going digital. And going digital and having something that graded for us helped us to have that freedom to be able to start traveling more, which is what we've always wanted to do. We've always wanted to not have our kids be so at home, focus minded on completing curriculum at home, that they never had experiences in the real world, like going out and seeing some of the amazing animals that we've been able to see and go and meet people from different cultures. And we try not to like push it a lot because I don't want to feel like vanity and just like, you know, the Bible says give your alms in secret. And there's times like I don't mention a lot of like our community service that we do because I don't want people to be like, woohoo, look at you, pat on the back. But doing Monarch has allowed us to have more opportunities to actually reach out into our community and help with donating to food drives or clothing or doing cleanup in people's yards. And I love that it's allowed us to have that freedom to be able to do that. But homeschooling is so freeing. It is responsibility, it is work, but it's also freeing. And I'm here to help. Tanisha's here to help. There's an amazing community of people who are willing to help others. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. Thank you again, Tanisha, for hosting this collab, and thank you so much for watching and joining me for my little coffee break here. It's probably gotten cold by now, but that's okay. But thank you for joining me for coffee today. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.